Mr. Fatima.
Good evening, sir.
Good to see you.
How are you guys?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. I think we're still waiting on a county attorney, so
So,
and Jail, I just wanted to double check. It doesn't look like we have any Spanish speakers. Is that what you're showing?
yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Your Honor. May I be excused?
Absolutely. Thank you for signing on.
Thank you very much.
I see Ms. Summers is here.
Samihan, is that you?
Yeah, it is me. Hi, Ty.
Hi, I'm sorry. I thought it was Miss Johnson. I sent them to her. Did you get the recommendations anyway?
Yep, I got them on the SharePoint. You're all good. Thank you, though.
Okay, great. Good evening, Judge Taney.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Good, nice to see you.
You too.
I did try to include you in the email, but I guessed your email address wrong, so it got sent back.
Oh, no worries. I was able to get them from the clerk, so we're good.
Okay. Can I ask a question while we're waiting?
Mm-hmm.
There's a little confusion on our end about Mr. Alcaraz, about whether or not he has a JP warrant. We're just on your side, you just have nuisances, right?
So I'm showing the parole violation warrant out of Pima County Superior Court. That's the 2023 case, but I don't see any other warrants. Let me double check. Do you guys see anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a felony, the interim, and then a DOC.
Your Honor, the jail is informing me that it's just a felony interim and a DOC vote.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, I think maybe, I don't know. I think it's confusion on our end. Maybe we were going to issue a JP warrant and didn't. So thank you for checking on that for us.
No worries.
Control all you do, and when you're second round revision, starting the sun.
And Your Honor, I believe Mr. Forbes refused again, and this is the third refusal. So if the court wants to treat this as a voluntary absence and go forward with the IA, I'm okay with that. But if the court wants to do another continuance, that is fine too.
All right. So as long as you're okay waiving his presence, we'll go ahead and go forward on him. So I'm just going to put in here that he's refused and is voluntarily absent.
And he has an interim.
All right. So I've looked at everything on this case. I see that Ms. Summers, you're asking for the $7,500 warrant that's listed in the bond. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing in addition to the information I provided.
Okay, Mr. Fatak, did you wish to be heard?
Yes, please, Judge. I don't know if he's being held on anything else. I think he is. Oh yeah, here it is. He's being held on two separate bonds of $1,500 and $5,000 each. So he's not been able to post those. So we just asked you to we're asking the court to set $1,000 bond for 10 credit. So instead of the $7,500. Thank you.
Okay, so I am going to order that he be held on the $7,500 bond listed in the warrant. As conditions of his release, he's not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons. He will be monitored by pretrial services if he posts that. Looks like, let's see, we're going to appoint Christian Kimina to represent him. And I will set this for an arraignment hearing on March the 18th, 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Is there any way we could get this? Johnny Forbes. Yeah. And on the next one, Judge, Mr. Yuko PCO, I believe he is still involuntarily absent.
All right, so we'll go ahead and bump him to tomorrow's session. And I believe there might be some family online for him. So, so whoever's online for Mr. Yoka PCO, he's just going to be continued to tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Arch.
Judge, and may I be briefly excused till the court handles misdemeanors?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Give me 1 second. I'm just finishing up some paperwork real quick. I'll be right with you.
Okay.
All right, ma'am. Can I get your name?
Cassandra Archer.
All right, ma'am, we're seeing you this evening because it looks like you've got a couple of different cases. You've got 2 cases that are pending out of Tucson City Court that we'll talk about here in a second. And you also have some charges in Pima County Justice Court. These are all misdemeanors. Now, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, though not necessarily at court expense. Since you've also got city court cases, we're going to go ahead and go over a few other rights that you have just in case you haven't been arraigned yet. You also have the right to be present for any and all court proceedings. However, if you fail to come to court, those hearings can happen without you and a warrant will issue for your arrest. Now, if you are convicted in your absence and you cannot be sentenced within 90 days because of your failure to appear, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Now, in your Pima County case, you were charged with failures to appear and shoplifting, and it looks like, let's see. Looks like that case is from 2023. So what I'm going to do there, ma'am, is I'm going to order that you be held on a $250 cash or secured bond. I am going to appoint Gary Grinkowicz to represent you. You'll get paperwork that has his contact information on it so you can get a hold of him. As conditions of your release, you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're also not to have any contact with any alleged victims, which would be the victim business, and not return to the incident location. Your next court date on the justice court case is going to be the 12th, so that'll be tomorrow, and that'll be at 1 p.m. And if you're still in custody, the jail will take care of making sure you were brought to that court hearing. In your city court matters, both of these cases issued back in 2022. You were originally charged with criminal damage, disorderly conduct, interference with judicial proceedings, and it looks like some failures to appear as well. It also looks like most of these offenses were alleged to be domestic violence offenses. What I'm going to do is I'm going to enter not guilties for any charges that you have not already been arraigned on. I'm going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. I'm going to hold you on a $250 bond in this case as well that will be cash or secured. As conditions of your release, once again, possess or consume no alcohol or illegal drugs, commit no acts of domestic violence, possess no firearms or weapons. You're not to have any contact with any listed victims, their residences, or their workplaces. I will appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. I'm going to give you 2 separate court dates in this matter, ma'am. So if you are still in custody, you will have a video review hearing, or actually, I'm just going to give you one court date based on the nature of the charges. If you're in custody, you will have a video review hearing on March the 20th, 2025 at 1:45 in the afternoon. If you bond out of custody, it's your job to make sure you get to Tucson City Court to go ahead and attend that hearing in person. And your hearing in City Court will be with Judge Blue. So ma'am, I know I've given you a couple of different court dates in a couple of different courthouses. If you bond out of custody, you need to make those hearings or warrants will issue. Do you understand?
Yep.
All right, that's all for this evening. You're excused.
Thank you.
Have a seat out there.
Daniel.
Excuse the JP, please. Hello, can I get your name?
Daniel Archibald.
All right, sir, we are seeing you this evening on a case out of Pima County Justice Court where you've been charged with domestic violence, criminal damage, and domestic violence disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, though not necessarily at court expense. I am going to appoint Gary Grinkowicz to represent you, and you'll get paperwork from this evening's hearing that has his phone number on it. Now, I'm looking at the pretrial services report here. And based on your history and based on the input we received from the alleged victim, sir, I am going to order that you be held on a $500 cash or secured bond. As conditions of your release, you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, commit no acts of domestic violence, possess no firearms or weapons. You're also not to have any contact with the listed victim, their residence, or their workplace. And I also see that you're currently on, it looks like a probation hold. So whatever happens in this case, if you post a bond here, if that hold is still in place, then you're going to remain in custody until that's resolved. Your next court date in this matter is going to be March the 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Do you have any questions, sir?
No.
All right, that's all for this evening, sir. You're excused.
Barboa. Back out.
Hello, can I get your name?
Luis Barboa.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening on some new misdemeanor charges out of Pima County Justice Court. You've been charged with 1 count of domestic violence, criminal damage. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, though not necessarily at court expense. Now, sir, based on what I'm seeing in your pretrial services report, I am going to release you on your promise to appear. As conditions of your release, you're not to commit any acts of domestic violence. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you're not to possess any firearms or weapons. Your next court date is going to be at Pima County Justice Court on March the 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. If you don't make that court date, sir, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all for this evening, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
Huh? It's illegal to do it themselves. Yeah, it's not illegal. Okay. Okay. I won't tell her right now.
Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Ryan Cook.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening on some charges out of Marana Municipal Court. You've been charged with 1 count of criminal damage, domestic violence. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, though not necessarily at court expense. Now, sir, I've read the probable cause statement for your case as well as the pretrial services workup. I'm going to release you from custody on your promise to appear. Your next court date is going to be April the 9th at 10 o'clock in the morning. I am going to put some other conditions in place. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons, and you're not to commit any acts of domestic violence. I'm also going to order that you not have any contact with the victim in this matter, Joseph Cook, his residence or his workplace. Now, based on the information I have, I am going to check a box on your paperwork that will allow you to go to the residence 1 time with police escort to gather your belongings. Do you have any questions, sir?
How did I get domestic violence when I didn't even touch anybody?
So we're not talking about the facts of your case tonight. That's something you can bring up with the judge in Marana Court. We're just talking about your release conditions. So your next court date is April the 9th at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's all for this evening, sir. You're excused. Hello, can I get your name?
Joseph Monzo.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening on quite a number of cases out of Tucson City Court. It looks like you have 8 pending cases. 3 of them are for 2025 and the remainder are from 2024. You've been charged with failures to appear, theft or shoplifting, possession of drug paraphernalia, and criminal trespass in the 3rd degree and criminal trespass in the 1st degree. Now, sir, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and I'm appointing the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. You have the right to be present for any and all court proceedings. However, if you fail to come to court, then a warrant can issue for your arrest, and those hearings can happen without you. Now, if you are convicted and you cannot be sentenced within 90 days because of your failure to appear, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Now, sir, based on the number of cases you have outstanding and the age of your warrants, I am going to order you be held on a $500 cash or secured bond. As conditions of your release, you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, not to have any contact with any alleged victims, their residences, or their workplaces. You're also not to return to any of the listed incident locations.
I can't be.
What was that, sir?
I can't be released on my own recognizance.
No, sir, not with this number of cases and warrants. Now, your next court date, I'm going to give you 2. If you are still in custody, then the jail will take you for a video review hearing on March the 21st, 2025 at 1:45 in the afternoon. If you are out of custody, you need to get down to Tucson City Court on April the 8th, 2025 at 9:30. If you don't, then a warrant will issue. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's all for this evening, sir. You're excused. Hello, can I get your name?
Loretta Marie Valenzuela.
All right, ma'am, we're seeing you this evening on some cases out of Tucson City Court. You have 5 cases that are currently pending. They're all from 2024, and they involve charges relating to criminal trespass in the 2nd degree, criminal trespass in the 3rd degree, theft or shoplifting, assault, and unlawful possession of a narcotics paraphernalia. And you also have some failure to appear charges as well. So, ma'am, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, though not necessarily at court expense. You have the right to be present for any and all court proceedings. However, if you fail to show to court, those hearings can happen without you and a warrant could issue for your arrest. Now, if you are convicted and you cannot be sentenced within 90 days of your conviction, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Now, I'm going to enter not guilties on your behalf for any charges that you have not already been arraigned on. Based on the number of cases you have and the failures to appear, I am going to order you be held on a $500 cash or secured bond. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons. You're not to have any contact with any alleged victims, their residences, or their workplaces. You're also not to return to any of the incident locations. I am going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. Now, if you are still in custody, you will have a video review hearing on March 21st, 2025 at 1:45 in the afternoon. If you bond out of custody, then your hearing will be April the 14th, 2025 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that will be at Tucson City Court with Judge Cranshaw. Now, ma'am, if you bond out of custody, you have to make those court appearances or warrants will issue again. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all for this evening. You're excused. She has. Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Matthew Coy. I'm sorry for missing court.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening on a couple of cases out of Tucson City Court. They're both from 2024. The underlying charges involve threats or intimidation, criminal trespass in the 3rd degree, disorderly conduct, as well as paraphernalia possession and some failures to appear. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, though not necessarily at court expense. However, I am going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. You have the right to be present for all court proceedings. However, if you fail to go to court, those hearings can happen without you and warrants can issue for your arrest. Now, if you are convicted and you cannot be sentenced within 90 days because of your failure to appear, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Now, sir, for any charges that you have not already been arraigned on, I'm going to enter not guilties on your behalf. I am going to order that you be held on a $500 cash or secured bond. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons, not have any contact with any listed victims, their residences, their workplaces, or the incident locations. Your next court date is going to be a video review hearing on March the 21st, 2025 at 1:45 in the afternoon. If you bond out of custody, then your court hearing will be April the 10th, 2025. Sir, sit down. We're not done yet. Sir, if you bond out of custody, your next court date is going to be April the 10th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, sir, if you fail to show to court, then warrants will issue for your arrest again. That's all for tonight, sir. You're excused.
Go.
Mr. Fatak, I'm assuming waiving reading?
Yes, please, Judge.
Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Marvin,
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening because you were arrested on some new felony charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. Mr. Patak is seated beside you. He's a lawyer, and he can help you with tonight's hearing if you have any questions. Now, I've read the interim complaint, the pretrial services workup, as well as the county attorney's recommendation. I see that the state is recommending pretrial services release. My inclination is to follow that. Did either counsel wish to be heard any further?
No, Judge, release that's all. Thank you.
All right, sir, I am going to release you on your pretrial services release. You're going to have to report to them once you get out of custody, and you're going to have to comply with any monitoring or treatment directions they give you. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. I am also going to require that you report to an address on East Benson Highway. Mr. Fatak can go over that with you, but the phone number for that location as well as the address will be in your paperwork from today's hearing. You're going to have a preliminary hearing set for March the 31st at 1:30 in the afternoon. Now you need to stay in contact with pretrial services and with your attorney, because if you fail to appear for court, then a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, that's all. What was that?
Yes, ma'am. I get time now.
Okay, sir. So that's all for this evening. You're excused.
Judging, we'll wait on the next one too.
Understood.
Adjust.
Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Gregory Schmid.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening for an initial appearance because you've got quite a number of cases in 3 different jurisdictions. You have some cases pending in Tucson City Court, you have some additional cases pending in Pima County Justice Court, and you were arrested on some new felony charges. Now, sir, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and we're going to start with your felony case. In that case, I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. Now, in each of your cases, we're going to talk about release conditions and your next court dates. So as to the felony charges, I've read the information presented to me. I see that the state is asking for a $7,500 bond. Ms. Summers, did you wish to be heard any further?
The only thing I would highlight, Judge, is the FTA score of 6 and the substantial number of other cases that he has going on, which demonstrates that he's unlikely to comply with court orders and show up for court. But on top of that, the specific facts of the case and the danger and risk that he presents to the community.
Mr. Fatak, did you wish to be heard?
Yes, please, Judge. Thank you. So it looks like Mr. Schmid does not have any felony history. We understand he is 6 on 6 on the scores, but due to a complete lack of felony history, we were asking the court to release him to trial. But we understand if you're not inclined, we just ask that you consider setting a $2,000 bond and give him nominal bonds on the misdemeanor matters so he can earn some time credit and finish these cases. Thank you.
All right, sir, on your felony matter, I am going to order that you be held on a $7,500 cash or secured bond. I will tell you that my inclination initially was to go higher than that, but you will be released to pretrial services if you post that, and you will have to comply with any monitoring or treatment directions they give you. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons, and have absolutely no contact with the victim, their residence, or their workplace. I'm going to set a preliminary hearing for March 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Before we move to the misdemeanors, I had information that perhaps one of the listed victims on the felony case might be present. I see some phone numbers. I don't know if one of them is one of the victims, but I forgot to note that and double check.
We can double check real quick. Are there any victims on the line for Mr. Schmidt's case? I think they're on for some other cases, but thank you for bringing that to our attention, Ms. Summers.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, sir, we're going to talk about your justice court cases next. And you have 8 cases pending in Pima County Justice Court. 2 of those cases are from 2024. The remainder are from 2023. Between those cases, you've been charged with interference with judicial proceedings, criminal trespass in the 3rd degree, failure to appear, multiple charges of criminal trespass in the 3rd degree, contempt of court, loitering in a public place, assault with intent to touch or provoke, disorderly conduct. And then you have multiple charges between the cases of each of those types of charges. So, sir, in these cases as well, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I am going to appoint John Illis to represent you. Now, as to all of your cases, I am going to order that you be held on a $500 cash or secured bond that will be concurrent between all of the justice court cases. Your next court date will be an arraignment hearing tomorrow, March the 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon. As conditions of your release, you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons, have no contact with any of the alleged victims. Do not return to any of the incident locations as well. Let's give me 1 second to finish the paperwork for these cases, and then we'll talk about your Tucson City Court matters. Now in your city court matters, you have two cases from 2025, one case from 2024, and 2 cases from 2023. Between all of those, you've been charged with misdemeanor counts of assault, criminal trespass in the 2nd degree, criminal damage, failures to appear, criminal trespass in the 3rd degree. And in addition to the rights I mentioned before, you also have the right to be present for any and all court proceedings. However, if you fail to come to court, then warrants can issue for your arrest and those hearings can happen without you. Now, if you are convicted and you cannot be sentenced within 90 days because of your failure to come to court, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Now, sir, in these cases as well, I am going to order that you be held on an additional $500 cash or secured bond. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons, not have any contact with any listed victims, the incident locations, or any victim residences or workplaces. I am going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you, and I'm also going to enter not guilties on your behalf for any charges that you have not already been arraigned on. Now, in this case, I'm going to set your court hearing for March the 20th, 2025. At 1:45 in the afternoon. That will be with Judge Blue over at Tucson City Court. Now, sir, if you bond out of custody, you need to make sure you get to Tucson City Court or a warrant will issue for your arrest. Do you understand? No. All right, sir, that's all for this evening. You're excused. Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Yeah, good evening, Your Honor. Mark A. Turner. I didn't even know we had court at 7:32 p.m. That's
We do every day of the week, sir. Just give me 1 second to pull up your pretrial services report. All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening on some new felony charges. Looks like you were charged with aggravated harassment as well as aggravated domestic violence. Now, sir, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and I'm going to appoint Nicholas Brereton to represent you. You'll get paperwork that has his phone number on it so you can get a hold of him. Now, we're going to talk about release conditions and your next court date. I've read everything presented to me, so I know a little bit about the case. I see that the state is asking for a no bond hold because you are on release for a separate felony conviction. Ms. Summers, is that still your position?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Fatak, my inclination is to set a no bond hearing and a preliminary hearing. Did you wish to be heard any further?
Yes, Judge. I'm just trying to, and Ms. Summers, please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe his arraignment was today, so release conditions were set on, I believe 2/12 though, because it was a jail charge. I see, and I didn't notice the.
So
Your Honor, may I ask you a question? I'm sorry, I'm not. Apparently someone.
Hold on, sir,
Oh,
before you do,
I'm sorry.
So I'd like you to really ask Mr. Fatak first, only because I don't want you to say something accidentally that might hurt your case.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Ms. Summers, you were mentioning something?
I was gonna to answer Mr. Fatak's question. So we don't go on release from when they were arraigned. It starts from when they were initialed. And so in this case, he was initialed on February 13th and released to pretrial services. And then the offense date in our current case is March 6th, which is after that. So we go by the release date, not the arraignment date.
Yeah, and that was the question I had, so I just wanted to double check. So, Judge, we are asking for a no bond hearing. Thank you.
All right, sir. So I am going to order that you be held without bond. I'm going to set a no bond hearing for March the 17th at 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm also going to set a preliminary hearing for March the 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, as conditions of your release right now, while you're still in custody, you are not to have any contact whatsoever with the listed victim, Alicia Vick, her residence or her workplace. And that means no contact of any kind. You might get access to telephones or tablets while you're in custody. There's no phone calls, no social media, no getting a friend to call her or contact her for you. No contact means no contact. All right, sir.
Okay, so.
Go ahead.
Okay, so am I staying in jail or am I going home? What is happening?
Judge, I'll talk to him.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Fatak. Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Rodolfo Mariano Alcruz.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening for some new felony charges involving allegations of kidnapping and aggravated assault. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you. You have counsel seated beside you if you have any questions this evening. Now, I've looked at the pretrial services report, the interim complaint, and the state's recommendation. The state is asking for a $250,000 bond. Ms. Summers, did you wish to be heard any further?
No, Your Honor, I think I covered all of the state's concerns in my recommendation.
Mr. Fatak?
Your Honor, can I have a brief moment, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, Your Honor, looks like Mr. Alcaraz already has a parole hold from the Department of Corrections, although I think it's set to expire soon. He reports to me that he has an infant he cares for. He is 21 years old, and I think the offense date is sometime in December of 2024. Your Honor, he's also classified as a level 1. For all those reasons, we are asking you to consider setting a $20,000 bond. Thank you.
All right, sir, I'm going to order that you be held on a $100,000 cash or secured bond. You will be supervised by pretrial services if you post that, and you'll have to comply with any monitoring or treatment directions they give you. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons. You're also not to have any contact with the alleged victims, their residence, or their workplaces. You're also not to have any contact with the incident location. Your next court date is going to be a preliminary hearing on March 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. Sir, if you bond out of custody and if you're released from your DOC hold, you need to make that court appearance or a warrant can issue for your arrest. I also can't stress enough what no contact means. No contact means no contact in any way, shape, or form. No third party, no social media, no phone calls, nothing. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, that's all for this evening, sir.
So.
Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Jorge Alberto Mejia.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening on a few different matters. You've got some cases pending in Tucson City Court that we'll talk about in a second. You also have some new felony charges involving allegations of possession of a dangerous drug and possession of drug paraphernalia. Now, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Now, as to your felony charges, it looks like the state is moving to dismiss the case without prejudice. Mr. Fatak, I'm assuming no objection?
No objection, Judge.
So I'm going to dismiss the felony charges without prejudice. What that means is that the charges are going away, but the state can refile them in the future. Now, we also have some city court matters that we're going to talk about. And in your city court cases, you have 9 open cases. You have one that goes back to 2016. You have 2 from 2023, 2 from 2021, 2021, 1 from 2017, 2 from 2025, and another one from 2023. Now, sir, you do have, in addition to the right to remain silent, you do have the right to an attorney, though not necessarily at court expense. Now, between all of these cases, you've been charged with criminal trespass, assault, criminal damage, theft, reckless burning, possession of drug paraphernalia, parks violation, prescription drug violation, and some failures to appear. Now, sir, you do have the right to be present for any and all court proceedings. However, if you fail to come to court, then a warrant will issue for your arrest, and those hearings can happen without you. Now, if you are convicted and you cannot be sentenced within 90 days because you have not come to court, then you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Now, sir, what I'm going to do for any charges that you have not already been arraigned on, I'm going to enter not guilties on your behalf. Now, given the age of your cases and the number of warrants, sir, I am going to order that you be held on a $1,000 cash or secured bond. You are not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You're not to possess any firearms or weapons. You're not to have any contact with any listed victims, their residences, their workplaces, or the alleged incident locations. I'm going to set your court date for March the 20th, 2025, and that will be at 1:45 in the afternoon. That will be with Judge Blue over at Tucson City Court. And you'll get paperwork that has all of this information on it. Now, sir, if you are still in custody on the 20th, the jail will take care of taking you to court and it'll be a video review hearing like now. If you are out of custody, you need to get down to city court on that date. If you don't, a warrant will issue. Do you understand? Am I keeping you
Yes,
awake,
ma'am.
sir? All right, that's all for this
Yes.
evening, sir. You're excused.
Come down the stairs.
Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Yes, Brandon Thomas.
All right, sir, you're here this evening on some new felony charges involving allegations of domestic violence, aggravated harassment, and burglary. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you. You have counsel seated beside you if you have any questions for the hearing this evening. Now, before we go any further, I believe we may have some victim representatives on the line for this case. Is that true?
Yes, Your Honor.
And can I get your name, please?
My name is Tim Sullivan.
And I take it are you the father of the minor victim?
The grandfather, and she lives with me.
All right, sir, I'm going to ask you some questions here in just a minute. But I do want to go ahead and get some, I just want to make sure that I've got all the information that I need on this case. Now, for both Mr. Sullivan and for you, Mr. Thomas, we're not talking about the facts of the case. We're just talking about release conditions today. That the facts of the case come at a different stage and with a different judge. So I've read the pretrial services workup. I've also read the interim complaint and the state's recommendation. Now, Mr. Sullivan, since you are the victim representative, you are entitled to give input with regards to release conditions. Is there anything you would like me to know with regards to whether or not you feel that Mr. Thomas should be held in custody, released, or anything else?
Yes, Your Honor, I do, and that's why I'm here. This has been going on for a long time, and the deputy sheriffs are coming out at least 3 times every week. Everybody in our neighborhood knows his car because he lives in it, and I will almost bet farm that if you let him out tonight, within 12 hours or 20 hours, he will be back in our neighborhood and trying to sneak in. He has a succession with my granddaughter who's 16. And I'll start all over again. So I'm pleading with you to not do it this time. He's been arrested before, but he always comes back.
All right, sir. So thank you for calling in and for giving your input. Ms. Summers, did you wish to be heard at all on release conditions?
Yes, Your Honor. I understand that he doesn't have any felony convictions, felony history, and his misdemeanor history. He has the one that's pending that's recent. But I think what's important about that is the recent misdemeanor history is related to this case. And what that demonstrates is that both based on that and the order of protection, he is unable, it appears, to comply with court orders. So the state is recommending that he be held in this case. I've recommended $5,000 because of his age and because of the lack of felony history, but I do think it's important that he be held, and that based on the input and the history in this case.
Mr. Fatak, did you wish to be heard?
Yes, please, Judge. I'm sorry about this, but may I get a brief moment again, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, Judge, and speaking with Mr. Thomas, looking at the pretrial services report, it does seem like the DV case he's out on is with a different victim. It's recent, I understand, as the state pointed out. There seems to be an order of protection also listed in the pretrial services report. Your Honor, I agree with the state. He's 22. He has no felony history. Your Honor, Mr. Thomas is asking me to advocate for release at this time because he has his father, whose place he can return to. He doesn't reside with the victim. But Your Honor, if you're not inclined to release him at all, we are asking for another $1,000 if you're not inclined. But he's really asking for release. Thank you.
All right, I've considered everything, including the input from Mr. Sullivan as well as the history and Mr. Thomas's age. I know that he has a relatively limited history and he is young. However, there is an active order of protection that is out, and based on the information alleged in the probable cause statements, I do have concerns about his willingness to abide by any court orders, and more specifically, any contact orders. Now, sir, I am going to order that you be held on a $10,000 cash or secured bond. You will be supervised by pretrial services if you post that, and you will have to comply with any monitoring or treatment directions they give you. You are not to possess any firearms or weapons. You're not to commit any acts of domestic violence, and you're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. Most importantly, sir, you are not to have any contact whatsoever with the listed victims in this case, the residence or the workplace. And as to the minor victim, you are not to have any contact with any place of education that she might be attending as well. Now, sir, no contact means just that, no contact. There is no phone calls, there's no social media, there is nothing at all in terms of contact. Do you understand?
I promise to never make this.
All right, sir, so I'm going to set a preliminary hearing in your case for March the 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. If you bond out of custody, you need to make that court appearance and you need to stay in contact with your attorney and pretrial services, or a warrant will issue for your arrest. That's all for this evening, sir. You're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to say, and with the restraining order, he has violated at least 100 times this date.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. And Mr. Thomas, there is one other condition that I neglected to read off to you. That order of protection, it's still valid. If you are released, you are not, and even if you are not released, you're not to violate the orders, the conditions in that order of protection. And I included the OP number in your court paperwork. All right, so that's all for this evening, sir. You're excused. And thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for calling in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Down the gentleman.
Hello, sir. Can I get your name?
Guadalupe Valz.
All right, sir, we're seeing you this evening on a couple of different matters. You have some new felony charges, and you also have a couple of cases pending out of Tucson City Court. We're going to start with the felony case first. There you've been charged with a couple of counts of aggravated domestic violence. Now, sir, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have the right to an attorney, and I'm appointing the legal advocate's office to represent you. You have counsel seated beside you if you have any questions this evening. Now, I've read the information provided to me. I see that the state is asking for a $7,500 bond. Ms. Summers, did you wish to be heard any further?
No, Your Honor, I don't have anything to add to the information that I provided in the recommendation.
Mr. Patak, did you wish to be heard?
Yes, please, Judge. So it looks like Mr. Valdez has just one failure to appear in the last 2 years. The victim, while she's objecting to his release from custody, confirmed she did not sustain any injuries as a result of this incident. Your Honor, he does seem to have some out of county warrants, but those are not extraditable. His last conviction is only from 2021. For those reasons, Judge, and this being a non-violent offense, we are asking you to consider releasing Mr. Valdez to pretrial services. But if you're not inclined, we ask a bond closer to $2,000.
All right, sir, in this case, I'm going to order you be held on a $2,000 cash or secured bond. You will be supervised by pretrial services if you post that, and you will have to comply with any monitoring or treatment directions they give you. You're not to commit any acts of domestic violence, possess and consume no alcohol or illegal drugs, possess no firearms or weapons. You're not to have any contact with Evangeline Mendoza, the victim in the case, her residence or her workplace. Your next court date in this case is going to be a preliminary hearing on March the 21st at 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, in your city court matters, it looks like you were placed on probation and a petition to revoke probation was filed, and then a warrant issued for your arrest. The underlying charges involved allegations of disorderly conduct in both of these cases, and they were both alleged to be domestic violence offenses. Now, in addition to the rights I mentioned before, you also have the right to be present for all court proceedings. However, if you fail to come to court, then a warrant will issue for your arrest, and those hearings can move forward without you. You also, if you are convicted and you cannot be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal if you do not come to court. Now, sir, in these cases, looking through the city court files, it looks like the judge assigned to your cases was asking for a $2,500 cash bond. I am going to order that you be held on that amount, so it's $2,500 cash. You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, commit no acts of domestic violence, possess no firearms or weapons, have no contact with any of the victims in the case, their residences or their workplaces. I am going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you. Your next court date will be with Judge Million, and that will be on March the 26th, 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, sir, if you're in custody, the jail will take you there to court. It'll probably be a video review hearing, kind of like what we're having now. If not, if you are released, then you need to get to city court on March 26th or a warrant will issue. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, that's all for this evening. You're excused. All right, jail counsel, I believe that's everything on my end, unless somebody's showing something different.
No, Your Honor, we're done.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning. Bye.
I was gonna clean my room until I got high. I was gonna get up and find the broom, but then I got high. My room is still messed up, and I know why. Yeah, baby, yeah. I was gonna go to class, but then I got high. I could have cheated and I could have passed, but then I got high. I'm taking it next semester, and I know why. Baby, yeah. turn me up, D. I was gonna go to court, but then I got high. Yeah, check. I just got a new promotion, then I got high. Now I'm selling weed. What did I know? Holla at your boy, yeah. A baby. Yeah, man, D. I was gonna go to court, but then I got high.